back to the White House. We spent a lot of time here and a lot of time in India, and he's a very special man. Prime Minister, it is a pleasure to extend to you the same hospitality that you showed Melania and myself when we traveled to your beautiful country 5 years ago. It's hard to believe, so long ago, and it seemed like yesterday. It was beautiful. We opened the cricket stadium, 129,000 seats, I think the largest stadium in the world, and it was an incredible period of time. There is truly a special bond between the United States and India, and the world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy, and I believe the world's largest country in terms of the numbers of people. And today the Prime Minister and I are announcing a framework to strengthen those ties even further economically, and the U.S.-India Compact for the 21st century is a historic initiative that will deepen every aspect of our partnership and our friendship. Starting this year, we'll be increasing military sales to India by many billions of dollars. We're also paving the way to ultimately provide India with the F-35 stealth fighters. In 2017, my administration revived and reinvigorated the Quad security partnership. In our meeting today, the Prime Minister and I reaffirmed that strong cooperation among the United States, India, Australia, and Japan. And it's crucial, really, to maintaining peace and prosperity, tranquility, even in the Indo-Pacific. In addition, the United States and India will be working together like never before to confront the threat of radical Islamic terrorism, a threat all over the world, actually. Today, I'm pleased to announce that my administration has approved the extradition of one of the plotters and one of the very evil people of the world, and having to do with the horrific 2008 Mumbai terrorist attack, to face justice in India. So he's going to be going back to India to face justice. As we deepen our defense partnership, we'll also strengthen our economic ties and bring greater fairness and reciprocity to our trading relationship. As a signal of good faith, Prime Minister Modi recently announced the reductions to India's unfair, very strong tariffs that limit U.S. access into the Indian market very strongly, and really it's a big problem, I must say. India imposes a 30 to 40 to 60 and even 70% tariff on so many of the goods, and in some cases far more than that. And as an example, a 70% tariff on U.S. cars going into India, which makes it pretty much impossible to sell those cars. Today, the U.S. Trade deficit with India is almost $100 billion, and Prime Minister Modi and I have agreed that we'll begin negotiations to address the long-running disparities that should have been taken care of over the last 4 years, but they didn't do that, in the U.S.-India trading relationship, with the goal of signing an agreement. And we want, we want a certain level playing field, which we really think we're entitled to, and he does also, in fairness. So we're going to work on that very hard, and we can make up the difference very easily with the deficit, with the sale of oil and gas, LNG, of which we have more than anybody in the world. The Prime Minister and I also reached an important agreement on energy that will restore the United States as a leading supplier of oil and gas to India. It will be hopefully their #1 supplier. And the groundbreaking development for U.S. nuclear industry. India is also reforming its laws to welcome U.S. nuclear technology, which is at the highest level, into the Indian market. This will bring safe, clean, and affordable electricity to millions of Indians and tens of billions of dollars to the U.S. civilian nuclear industry in India. And under the framework we are announcing today, the United States and India are also joining forces to ensure that artificial intelligence and other advanced technologies are developed by the two of the most advanced nations, intellectually and otherwise technologically. Anywhere in the world, there's nobody very much closer. We have an incredible relationship there, and this is where it seems to be heading. And artificial intelligence, complex a very complex subject, but it seems to be where people want to be and they want to go, and we're leading right now by a lot, but other people will try to catch us. I don't know if they're going to be able to. We're going to make it available. We're going to make tremendous amounts of electricity available. We're going to let the people that are buying the electricity make their own electric plants, electric generation plants. And we've never done this in our country, but we're going to get it done very quickly. Lee Zeldin and his group are going to get the approvals in very rapid form. And we're calling it a national emergency, and that's exactly what it is. So we're going to remain at the top of the AI, or artificial intelligence, I think, for a long time to come. And we're going to be working very closely with India and other countries on that. But right now, we're the leader by quite a bit. Finally, we agreed to work together to help build one of the greatest trade routes in all of history. It will run from India to Israel to Italy and onward to the United States, connecting our partners by ports, railways, and undersea cables, many, many undersea cables. It's a big development. It's a lot of money going to be spent, and we've already spent some, but we're going to be spending a lot more in order to stay advanced and stay the leader. I'm pleased to report that with today's announcements, the friendship between the United States and India is the strongest I believe it's ever been. I think our relationship is the best it's ever been between two leaders of the two countries, and it's an honor to say that. I'd like to now invite the Prime Minister to say a few words, and then we'll take some questions, and we appreciate you all being here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप, दोनों देशों के डेलीगेट्स, मीडिया के साथियों, नमस्कार। सबसे पहले मैं मेरे प्रिय मित्र राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को मेरे शानदार स्वागत और आतिथ्य सत्कार के लिए हार्दिक आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने भारत और अमेरिका संबंधों को अपने नेतृत्व से संजोया है, जीवंत बनाया है। जिस उत्साह से उनकी पहली टर्म में हमने मिलकर काम किया, वही उमंग, वही ऊर्जा और वही प्रतिबद्धता मैंने आज भी महसूस की है। आज की चर्चाओं में उनके पहले टर्म में हमारी उपलब्धियों का संतोष और गहरे आपसी विश्वास का सेतु था। साथ ही नए लक्ष्यों को प्राप्त करने का संकल्प भी था। हम मानते हैं कि भारत और अमेरिका का साथ और सहयोग एक बेहतर विश्व को शेप कर सकता है। फ्रेंड्स, अमेरिका के लोग राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप के मोटो मेक अमेरिका ग्रेट अगेन यानी मागा से परिचित है। भारत के लोग भी विरासत और विकास की पटरी पर विकसित भारत 2047 के दृढ़ संकल्प को लेकर तेज गति शक्ति से विकास की ओर अग्रसर है। अमेरिका की भाषा में कहूं तो विकसित भारत का मतलब मेक इंडिया ग्रेट अगेन यानी मिगा। जब अमेरिका और भारत साथ मिलकर काम करते हैं यानी मागा, मागा प्लस मिगा, तब बन जाता है मेगा पार्टनरशिप फॉर प्रॉस्पेरिटी। और यही मेगा स्पिरिट हमारे लक्ष्यों को नया स्केल और स्कोप देती है। फ्रेंड्स, आज हमने द्विपक्षीय व्यापार को 2030 तक 2 गुना से भी अधिक बढ़ाकर $500 बिलियन तक पहुंचाने का लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया है। हमारी टीमें एक पारस्परिक लाभकारी ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट को शीघ्र संपन्न करने पर काम करेगी। भारत की ऊर्जा सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित करने में हम ऑयल तथा गैस ट्रेड को बल देंगे। ऊर्जा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में निवेश भी बढ़ेगा। न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी क्षेत्र में हमने स्मॉल मॉड्यूलर रिएक्टर्स की दिशा में सहयोग बढ़ाने पर भी बात की। फ्रेंड्स, भारत की डिफेंस प्रिपेयर्डनेस में अमेरिका की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका है। स्ट्रैटेजिक और ट्रस्टेड पार्टनर के नाते हम जॉइंट डेवलपमेंट, जॉइंट प्रोडक्शन और ट्रांसफर ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी की दिशा में सक्रिय रूप से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। आने वाले समय में भी नई टेक्नोलॉजी और इक्विपमेंट हमारी क्षमता बढ़ाएंगे। हमने ऑटोनोमस सिस्टम्स इंडस्ट्री अलायंस लॉन्च करने का निर्णय लिया है। अगले दशक के लिए डिफेंस कोऑपरेशन फ्रेमवर्क बनाया जाएगा। डिफेंस इंटरऑपरेबिलिटी, लॉजिस्टिक्स, रिपेयर और मेंटेनेंस भी इसके मुख्य भाग होंगे। फ्रेंड्स, 21वीं सदी टेक्नोलॉजी ड्रिवन सेंचुरी है। लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों में विश्वास रखने वाले देशों के बीच टेक्नोलॉजी क्षेत्र में करीबी सहयोग पूरी मानवता को नई दिशा, शक्ति और अवसर दे सकता है। भारत और अमेरिका आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, सेमीकंडक्टर्स, क्वांटम, बायोटेक्नोलॉजी तथा टेक्नोलॉजीज में मिलकर काम करेंगे। आज हमने ट्रस्ट यानी ट्रांसफॉर्मिंग रिलेशनशिप यूटिलाइजिंग स्ट्रेटेजिक टेक्नोलॉजी, उस पर सहमति बनाई है। इसके अंतर्गत क्रिटिकल मिनरल, एडवांस मटेरियल और फार्मास्यूटिकल की मजबूत सप्लाई चेन्स बनाने पर बल दिया जाएगा। लिथियम और रेयर अर्थ जैसे स्ट्रेटेजिक मिनरल के लिए रिकवरी और प्रोसेसिंग इनिशिएटिव्स लॉन्च करने का भी निर्णय लिया है। स्पेस के क्षेत्र में अमेरिका से हमारा करीबी सहयोग रहा है। इसरो और नासा के आपसी सहयोग से बनाई निसार सैटेलाइट शीघ्र ही भारतीय लॉन्च व्हीकल पर अंतरिक्ष की उड़ान भरेगी। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और अमेरिका की साझेदारी लोकतंत्र को सशक्त बनाती है। इंडो पैसिफिक में शांति, स्थिरता और समृद्धि को बढ़ाने के लिए हम मिलकर काम करेंगे। इसमें क्वाड की विशेष भूमिका होगी। इस वर्ष भारत में होने जा रही क्वाड समिट में हम पार्टनर देशों के साथ नए क्षेत्रों में सहयोग बढ़ाएंगे। आईमेक और I2U2 के तहत हम इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर और कनेक्टिविटी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर मिलकर काम करेंगे। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में भारत और अमेरिका दृढ़ता से साथ खड़े रहे हैं। हम सहमत हैं कि सीमा पार आतंकवाद के उन्मूलन के लिए ठोस कार्रवाई आवश्यक है और मैं राष्ट्रपति जी का आभारी हूं। उन्होंने 2008 के जिसने भारत में नरसंहार किया था, उस मुजरिम को अब भारत के हवाले करने का निर्णय किया है। भारत की अदालतें उचित कार्यवाही करेंगी। फ्रेंड्स, अमेरिका में रहने वाला भारतीय समुदाय हमारे संबंधों की महत्वपूर्ण कड़ी है। हमारे पीपल टू पीपल टाइज को और गहरा करने के लिए हम शीघ्र ही लॉस एंजलिस और बोस्टन में भारत के नए कॉन्सुलेट खोलेंगे। हमने अमेरिका की यूनिवर्सिटीज और शिक्षा संस्थानों को भारत में ऑफशोर कैंपस खोलने के लिए निमंत्रण दिया है। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप आपकी मित्रता और भारत के लिए दृढ़ प्रतिबद्धता के लिए मैं आपका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। भारत के लोग तो 2020 की आपकी यात्रा को आज भी याद करते हैं और उम्मीद करते हैं कि राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप एक बार फिर उनके पास आएंगे। 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों की ओर से मैं आपको भारत आने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Okay, thank you very much. That was excellent. We'll do a few questions, please. Please, go ahead. Please, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Blue shirt.
Thank you, Mr. President. People in India will naturally welcome your decision to extradite Thakur Rana to India back home. In that context, I would like to ask you a question about, in last few years, we have seen several groups in the U.S. raising anti-India voice, calling about separation, terrorism activities in India. Do you think that should continue here in the U.S. as well?
You're going to have to go louder.
Mr. President, people in India would be welcoming your decision to extradite Thakur Rana to...
I can't understand a word he's saying. It's not it's the accent. It's a little bit tough for me to hear that.
Can I try again?
How about you, please? Go ahead back there.
Mr. President, thank you. First, I want to ask
Thank
the
you very
Prime
much.
Minister a question. You and the President, you both spoke about combating ISIS. You both sounded very excited about this partnership upcoming. And I was curious, how much more confident are you with President Trump leading this country that there will be peace through strength and you will have a successful partnership with the United States versus with Biden's incompetence and weakness over the last 4 years?
That's your question, but I'll answer it. I agree with you. Yeah, gross incompetence. We're going to have a fantastic relationship, and it has been. Look, the whole world's been set back over the last 4 years by the weakness of the United States, the weak leadership of the United States. But I think we've taken care of it in just 3 weeks. It seems to me that even some of the media that we wouldn't prefer has been writing that this is a much different country right now, that the world has a light over it, not only our country, but the whole world. The Prime Minister told me that before, too, even over India. The world has a light. They need the United States to be strong and powerful, but good. And I think that's happened, and I think it's happened in a very short period of time. But I will tell you, we're going to have a fantastic relationship, and it'll make both countries much stronger. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, Geeta Mohan from India Today, sir.
I'll just take my colleague Lalit Jha's question forward because you couldn't understand.
Okay, fine.
The question is about the fact that you've decided to extradite Thakur Rana. Thank you so much. India has been waiting to have him back in India to bring him to justice. But there are many other elements in the United States of America, particularly Khalistani separatists who've been working against Indian interests. How is the United States of America going to cooperate on that front with India? There have been allegations that have been leveled against Indian agencies by the Biden administration. Are you going to relook that with Tulsi Gabbard as DNI now?
Well, I don't think India had a very good relationship with the Biden administration. They wouldn't sell them oil and gas, which is rather hard to believe because, it's a good thing to do. And a lot of things happened that weren't very appropriate, I thought, between India and the administration, the Biden administration. But as you said, we're giving a very violent man, it seems to me. I mean, I don't know that he's been convicted yet or will be, but let's assume he's a pretty violent person. We're giving him back to India immediately. And there are more to follow because we have quite a few requests. So we work with India on crime, and we want to make it good for India, and it's very important. So that kind of a relationship is very important to us. Okay? Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. President, you've repeatedly called India a big abuser of trade and said it is really difficult to do business in India because of tariffs. You announced reciprocal tariffs today. I am hoping you can speak about what kind of reciprocal tariffs India can expect. Are you willing to make any concessions? And how can India head off these tariffs? I also have one for the Prime Minister.
Well, India's been, to us, just about the highest tariffed nation anywhere in the world. They've been very strong on tariffs, and I don't blame them necessarily, but it's a different way of doing business. It's very hard to sell into India because they have trade barriers, very strong tariffs. We are right now a reciprocal nation. We are going to, if it's India or if it's somebody else with low tariffs, we're going to have the same. We're going to have whatever India charges, we're charging them. Whatever another country charges, we're charging them. So it's called reciprocal, which I think is a very fair way. We didn't have that. I was going to do that in my other term, and we had the greatest economy ever in the world. There's never been an economy like we had, and then we got hit with COVID. We had to focus on that, and I wasn't really in the mood to be putting it on Italy and Spain and France and India, frankly, and a lot of other countries because the world was very troubled until we got rid of that nightmare. But we had the strongest economy anywhere in the world during that fairly long period of time during my first term, as you know, and we didn't do the tariffs. We would have done the reciprocal tariffs, but we decided, and I decided, I think on a human basis, on a humane basis, not to do them because of the fact that there was such suffering all over the world. The last thing we needed to talk about is trade problems. But now we do. We're doing, we see a tremendous future for our country, but we felt that now it's finally time, after 45 or 50 years of abuse, that we will do, and this isn't India, this is among a lot of nations. The European Union is very difficult for us, very, very difficult. They tax our companies at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They take advantage of a lot of things, so we're not happy about that. China, of course, is terrible, and we've never taken in 10 cents until I was president. We've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars from China since I've been president in first term and now. And we have to do that just as a mechanism of fairness. And that's what I've done. And so we are being reciprocal with India. Whatever India charges, we charge them. So frankly, it no longer matters to us that much what they charge, because whatever they charge, I had discussions with India in the first term about the fact that their tariffs were very high, and I was unable to get a concession. So we're just going to do it the easy way, and we're just going to say whatever you charge, we charge. And I think that's fair for the people of the United States, and I think it's actually fair for India. Okay?
To make any concessions, sir? Are you willing to make any concessions, sir? Any concessions?
Go ahead, please. Ask to the
A
Prime
question
Minister,
for the
please.
Prime Minister, please.
Ask to the Prime Minister, please.
Yes. Sorry. Yoshita Singh with Press Trust of India. Thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister, the US is giving a lot of push to curb illegal immigration, and India has been cooperating on this issue. How does India see this issue in the larger context? Thank you.
सवाल सिर्फ भारत का नहीं है, वैश्विक रूप से हम इस मत के हैं कि गैर कानूनी तरीके से जो लोग दूसरे देशों में होते हैं उनको वहां रहने का कोई कानूनी अधिकार तो है नहीं। जहां तक भारत और अमेरिका का सवाल है, हमने हमेशा कहा है कि जो वेरीफाइड होगा, कि जो सच्चे अर्थ में भारत का ही नागरिक होगा, वो अगर अमेरिका में गैर कानूनी तरीके से रहता है तो उसको वापस लेने के लिए भारत तैयार है। लेकिन बात हमारे लिए वहां से रुकती नहीं है। ये सामान्य परिवारों के बच्चे होते हैं, उनको बड़े बड़े सपने दिखाए जाते हैं और उनको ज्यादातर ऐसे होते हैं उनको गुमराह करके लाया जाता है, और इसलिए ये ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग में जुड़े हुए पूरे इकोसिस्टम पर हमने वार करना चाहिए। और अमेरिका और भारत मिल करके हमारी कोशिश है और हमारी कोशिश रहनी चाहिए कि इस प्रकार की पूरी इकोसिस्टम को हमें जड़ मूल से नष्ट करना चाहिए, ताकि ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग बंद हो और गरीब लोगों को जो अपनी धन दौलत बेच करके ऐसे बड़े बड़े सपने दिखा करके उनको अंधेरे में रख करके ले जाया जाए, उनके साथ भी पूरे इकोसिस्टम के खिलाफ है। और मुझे विश्वास है कि राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप भी इस इकोसिस्टम को खत्म करने में भारत का पूरा सहयोग करेंगे।
Thank you, Mr. President. A question for the Prime Minister Modi first, if I may. I wanted to ask you: did you discuss any possible business deals with Elon Musk during your meetings today, Mr. Prime Minister? And Mr. President, I wanted to ask you: today you spoke about hoping to have three-way talks with President Xi and President Putin. What would you say to European leaders and other allies who may be concerned that you're apparently more keen to speak to America's adversaries than to its allies? Thank you.
Well, maybe I'll just go in first on this one. We had some talks, and we told the European Union, we told the NATO people, largely they overlap, you have to pay more money because it's unfair what we're doing. We're doing a tremendous amount more. We're probably $200 billion more going into Ukraine, using for Ukraine to fight. And Europe has not really carried its weight in terms of the money. It's not equitable. And we want to see a counterbalance. We want to have them put up more money. They have to do that. At the same time, we had a very good conversation with President Putin yesterday, and we also had a very good conversation. I did in both cases with President Zelensky. And I think we're going to be able to do something. I think we're going to be able to make a deal. And I hope so, because it's a horrible war. It's a very terrible, bloody war with 1.5 million soldiers at least already dead on the battlefield, lying all over the fields like nobody's ever seen anything like it, certainly since the Second World War. And so I think we're going to be able to do something. We're working with President Zelensky and with President Putin. And my impression is that I know that President Zelensky wants to make a deal. And I also feel that I know that President Putin wants to make a deal. I wanted to know that before I began any detailed discussions. But the meeting and the conversation, also the meeting with Steve Witkoff in Moscow, was a very successful one. And my phone call with him was a very successful one. Please.
ऐसा है कि आपने एलोन मस्क के लिए पूछा है। देखिए, मेरा उनका बहुत पुराना परिचय रहा है। मैं प्रधानमंत्री भी नहीं था, जब मैं मुख्यमंत्री था तब से मेरा उनका परिचय है। और आज वो एक पूरे परिवार के साथ, बच्चों के साथ मिलने के लिए आए थे। और स्वाभाविक है कि एक पारिवारिक वातावरण में उनके साथ मेरी गपगोष्ठी हुई है। जहां तक डील का सवाल है, आपने जो प्रश्न पूछा है, मैं समझता हूं पूरी दुनिया में डील शब्द का कॉपीराइट एक ही व्यक्ति का है और उस व्यक्ति का नाम है ट्रम्प।
That was very nice. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I ask whether you discussed at all today the case of Gautam Adani, who's one of the wealthiest men in Asia and perceived as an ally of Prime Minister Modi? Prime Minister Modi, have you asked the President to take action on that case? Thank you.
पहली बात है, भारत एक लोकतांत्रिक देश है और हमारे संस्कार, हमारी संस्कृति वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की है। हम पूरे विश्व को अपना एक परिवार मानते हैं। हर भारतीय को मैं अपना मानता हूं। दूसरी बात है, ऐसे व्यक्तिगत मामलों के लिए दो देश के मुखिया न मिलते हैं, न बैठते हैं, न बात करते हैं।
Go ahead, please. Yeah, please. Sir, go ahead, please.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. I have a question for you as well. But, Mr. President, you have suggested, with regards to the Russia-Ukraine war, you've suggested several things that Ukraine should give up. The idea of NATO membership, territory that was seized back in 2014 by Russia. What should Russia give up?
Russia has gotten themselves into something that I think they wish they didn't. If I were president, it would not have happened. Absolutely would not have happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. If you look at what has taken place under President Bush, they lost a lot. Under President Obama, they lost Crimea. Under Biden, it looks like they could lose the whole thing. Under Trump, they lost nothing. Ukraine lost nothing. They didn't give up anything. And you take a look at the other three presidents surrounding me, they gave up a lot. I think that when you look at Ukraine and when you look at the mess that they're in, it's got to be ended and it's got to be stopped. Now, Russia's taken over a pretty big chunk of territory, and they also have said from day one, long before President Putin, they've said they cannot have Ukraine be in NATO. They said that very strongly. I actually think that that was the thing that caused the start of the war. And Biden said it, and Zelensky said it, and I think that was one of the reasons, one of the starts of the war. But from long before Putin, they said you cannot have Ukraine going in any way into NATO. And I start from that standpoint. I think everybody knew that. Now, if a better deal can be negotiated, if they are able to make a deal where they can do that, that's fine with me. I really don't care. I want that bloodshed to stop. I don't want to see, we have an ocean between us and the site we're talking about, the site of death. We're calling it the fields of death. We have a big ocean in between us. This is more important for Europe. We shouldn't be in. They have to equalize, and they're going to have to do it fast, but they have to equalize. But as far as the negotiation, it's too early to say what's going to happen. Maybe Russia will give up a lot. Maybe they won't. And it's all dependent on what is going to happen. The negotiation really hasn't started. But I will say, as far as NATO is concerned, from many years before President Putin, I will tell you that I've heard that Russia would never accept that. And I think Ukraine knew that because Ukraine wasn't in and never requested to be in until more recently. So that's the way it is, and I think that's the way it's going to have to be. Go ahead, please. All right, go ahead, please, with the tie. With the tie, yeah.
Mr. President,
yes, go ahead, please.
This is Saurabh Shukla from News Mobile. Mr. President, you spoke about Prime Minister Modi as a tough negotiator. Who was a tougher negotiator today, and who has a better negotiating tactic when it comes to tariffs?
Oh, he's a much tougher negotiator than me, and he's a much better negotiator than me. There's not even a contest. Okay? Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Reena Bhardwaj from ANI. How do you see this relationship between India and the United States to counter China? And what is your vision when it comes to India, brokering peace in the Ukraine and Russia conflict?
Well, I think we're going to have a very good relationship with China. I got along with President Xi very well until COVID. That was a bridge too far. But until then, I got along with President Xi very, very well. We were very close as leaders go. I don't want to be naive, but as leaders go, I think we were very close. And I think that China is a very important player in the world. I think they can help us get this war over with Ukraine and Russia. And I look at India, I do see the skirmishes on the border, which are quite vicious, and I guess they continue to go on. If I could be of help, I'd love to help, because that should be stopped. That's been going on for a long time, and it's quite violent. It's quite violent, but I would hope that China and India and Russia and U.S. and all of us can get along. It's very important. The power of weaponry today is, and not only nuclear, but nuclear in particular, the power of weaponry is very important. I said before that I had very constructive talks in my first term with President Putin about the denuclearization of the two countries, and then we were going to go to China after we worked some kind of a deal. And we, at the confines of a deal, I thought he really wanted to do it, so did I, denuclearize. And it's such a beautiful term when you think about it. In other words, to bring it down, because the power of those weapons is too great. And I did speak to President Xi about that, and I was getting also a very good response. He's building a very strong nuclear power. He's not very close to Russia or the United States right now, but he will be soon. I mean, he'll catch up over the period of 4 or 5 years, they say. But it would be a great thing if we could, on a military basis. We're going to spend this year $915 billion on military. Russia, without the war, was spending close to 100, but with the war, I can't tell you what they're spending, but they're spending a lot. And China is spending $400 and $450 billion. We're over $900 billion. And I said, it doesn't really make sense, does it? We're spending the money against each other, and we could spend that money for better purpose if we got along. And I'll tell you, I think that something like that will happen. First, when I left, as you know, 4 years ago, we didn't have Israel and the Middle East. We didn't have October 7th, a disaster, the disaster. Nothing was happening. Iran was not going to do anything, because Iran did not have much money at that point. They were broke. They were totally broke. They didn't have money for Hamas or for Hezbollah. And you didn't have Russia with Ukraine, and that would never have happened. But now I come back, and the whole world is on fire, so I have to put out the fires. But after I put out the fires, I'm going to meet with China, and I'm going to meet with Russia, and we're going to see if we can de-escalate, if we can bring it down military, especially as it pertains to nuclear. Please.
अगर आप माइक लेकर के कुछ बात करें तो
प्रधानमंत्री जी, आप इंडिया का रोल कैसे देखते हैं? आपने बातचीत की है प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प से टू डी एस्केलेट द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इन रशिया एंड यूक्रेन.
आप जानते हैं, मैं रशिया और यूक्रेन दोनों से लगातार संपर्क में रहा हूं. मैं स्वयं भी दोनों देश की मुलाकात कर चुका हूं. बहुत से लोगों का एक भ्रम है कि भारत न्यूट्रल है. मैं साफ करना चाहता हूं, भारत न्यूट्रल नहीं है. हमारा अपना एक पक्ष है, और हमारा पक्ष है शांति, पीस. और मैंने इसी एक हमारे सिद्धांत को ले नहीं है. और आज भी मेरा कन्विक्शन है कि युद्ध के मैदान में समस्याओं के समाधान नहीं निकलते हैं. अल्टीमेटली वार्ता के टेबल पर ही होते हैं. और भारत का लगातार प्रयास रहा है कि दोनों लोग जिसमें मौजूद हो, वैसे फोरम में बातचीत होगी, तब कोई रास्ता निकलेगा. राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप जो प्रयास कर रहे हैं, मैं उनका स्वागत करता हूं, समर्थन करता हूं और मैं चाहता हूं कि राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप हो सके उतना जल्दी सफल हो ताकि दुनिया में शांति के रास्ते खुले।
Everybody, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I very much appreciate the Prime Minister visiting our great country, and I do really appreciate it. We have so much in common, and all we want to do is have peace, and we want to have strength, and we want to have lots of different things together. But the relationship with India and with the Prime Minister has never been better. Thank you very much.